The State Historical Society of North Dakota presents Visions from the Past.
My friends, my fellow Americans, men and women of North Dakota, and I see a good number of young North Dakotans too. There is not any place in this land to which I can go with as strong a sense of coming back to my own as here in the Northwest. Because, friends, it was here that I spent the 12 years of my life that determined the future of my career. If it had not been for the 12 years I spent in North Dakota and in the adjoining territories of Montana and Wyoming, if it had not been for that 12 years, I would never have been President of these United States. Now, I have been got here under false pretenses. I was told, and I started out to help the Liberty Loan. And I got up here and I found that the Liberty Loan was already oversubscribed. But the Liberty Loan is, after all, a mere part of the job I have in mind. The American people have decided definitely on two things. Henceforward, this is to be a country of Americans, 100% of Americans, and of no other. And that we have decided that we are going to put this war through, and we are going to put it through to a knockout and not to a point at a decision on points. Now, the lady voters in my audience who don't understand, I ask them to ask their husbands or brothers what I mean. There is, in this country, only one flag, and that is the United States flag. I mean to bar not only allegiance to every foreign flag, but I mean to bar also just as thoroughly those who pay allegiance to the red flag and the black flag. We have room in this country for differences of opinion concerning things that have to do with the preservation of the country. But we do not have room for differences of opinion when the people plan the destruction of the country. I don't care a rap where a man was born or where his parents were born. I don't care a rap what creed he professes, so long as he is a straight American and nothing else. What I ask, and I don't ask it, I demand it, is that he must be a straight American and nothing else but a straight American. So much for Americanism. Now for putting the war through. Now we are in it. We have taken time to make our strength felt because we had not prepared. There is just one way open to us, and that is to put this war through as soon as possible, to put it through until we get Germany on her knees. Germany now and then refers to the peace terms. I would like to tell Germany she need not bother her head about peace, because she will receive the exact peace that we impose upon her. I would go into any reasonable agreement that had to do with limiting the area of war. But as for inviting Germany or Austria or Turkey or the present government of Russia, any Lenin or Trotsky or Bolsheviki into any joint league of peace, I would just as lief ask so many road agents and gunmen to join the sheriff's posse. Now, friends, when we get through this war, there will be much to do here at home. We will need to draw on every ounce of intelligence, every ounce of idealism and common sense that we can muster in order to meet these problems at hand. And I want to call your attention to the fact that at this moment, the two greatest menaces to the peace of the world and to the victory of the Allies is Germany, the brutal foe, and Bolshevik Russia. Bolshevik Russia has taught us that anarchy is just as wicked, just as evil, and just as tyrannous as German autocracy. Remember that all men whom here in this country preach the doctrine of class hatred, violence, and greed, and who preach any form of anarchy and sedition are playing in this country the role that was played by the Russian Bolsheviks in Russia, and would reduce this country to just as great a depression as is in Russia now. Now, friends, there are plenty of evils, plenty of farm evils that we need to deal with here. The other day, I asked a farmer from the Northwest here to give me some examples of the kinds of difficulties that lead to all the disarray and the discontent among the farmers. He gave me these. He said, arrangements have been made to protect the elevator operator, but not to protect the farmer from unfair grading by the elevator operator. And again, in most instances, there has been no arrangement made for the dockage of their grain, and in many instances they are charged unreasonable rates of interest. He tells me it is unfair to place a minimum price upon the price of wheat and not place a minimum price upon the price of corn and cotton, and adds that it is unfair to control the price of any commodity if all the factors that enter into that commodity are not also controlled. My inquiries into this matter have led me to believe that there is sufficient evidence to justify these complaints. Now, my inquiries, friends, have also led me to reach the belief that many of the remedies proposed are not without threats and mischievousness, and many grave harms may be caused by the character of some of the agitation that some of the men who profess to seek these solutions are engaged in. To introduce state socialism as a remedy for these difficulties can lead to nothing but harm. In the last 18 months, it has been absolutely proven in this country that the Germanized Socialist Party and its machine are anti-American to the core and are the tools of Germany in this country. Their organizations, and I shall name two in just a moment, preach in part anarchy and in part sheer rotten Bolshevism. No clear-sighted man or woman can fail to see that national ruin would be ensured if we follow the leadership of such leaders and their practices. Now, some of the conditions complained of, the farm conditions complained of, can be met by federal and state action. So, among them are these. We need to supply federal regulation and control of the grain elevators and the grain mills. We need to make terminal elevators at the division points. We need to have state or federal regulation of the grading of the grain, and we will extend the federal bank loan system, which will enable the farmer to get money for legitimate purposes at a low rate of interest. Now, I believe in industrial and agricultural cooperation, but not political cooperation. Organizations among the farmers, such as that the kind they have in Illinois, will lead and has led to the farmers controlling their own grain elevators. And they control them by a commission that has got in it Democrats and Republicans and socialists and everybody else, but they have not gone into politics. I emphatically disagree with any party, and most emphatically disagree with any party that calls itself a nonpartisan party that is organizing one class against other classes and seeks to usurp the power into its own special union. Now, I speak with feeling on this subject because so keen was my concern at the injustice and unrest and unhappiness among the farmers of the Northwest that when the Nonpartisan League first made its appearance, I was inclined to welcome it and agree with it. However, it was with unusual reluctance that I was forced to be convinced obliged to be convinced that the leadership that controlled it was of such character as to threaten this country with the sort of evil comparable to those that had happened under Bolshevism and in connection with the IWW. Almost exactly 1 year ago, the League meeting in Minneapolis was turned into a regular ghost dance for the Hun within our gates. And it became evident to me that the most prominent leaders of the League were attempting to acquire power by playing the game of sedition and disloyalty, and by attempting to win followers by appealing to the spirit of greed and class hatred. That is exactly what Lenin and Trotsky have done in Russia. Now, I don't much care whether they ruined Russia because they are lunatics or sordid corruptionists. They have ruined Russia in either case, and so here. And that is how I feel about these organizations. I have in my bag a copy of the letter which was presented at the trial of Big Bill Haywood, the IWW leader, written by a secretary and one of the moving spirits of the Nonpartisan League, written on April 5th, 1917, just as we were going into the war. This letter from the secretary of the Nonpartisan League to the IWW leader said at the end, what we are planning to do, he is afraid, will be interfered with by this damned war. And he thinks that they should focus their fight on any legislation and against conscription. This leader thought, this high leader in the Nonpartisan League and one of the moving spirits thought, that they should direct their efforts against any legislation that would enable the government to deal with men who dynamite our factories, are stabbing our soldiers in the back, and against us. What these two responsible leaders of the IWW and the Nonpartisan League have in mind is to prevent any efforts on our part in order to deal most effectively with traitors and with German spies and any matters that will enable us to prosecute the war to its best advantage. Now, while such is the case, no patriotic American can afford to support either organization. There is not a German overseas or a pro-German here at home who does not wish the best of luck to the Nonpartisan League under its present control and to the IWW. And they wish them success because they see them as anti-American, and they see them as being capable of reducing this country to a condition akin to the condition that Russia was reduced to by the Bolsheviks there. If these men had their way last year, and if they have their way today, our beloved country will be the object of scorn by every freedom-loving nation. Now, whether actuated by evil fanaticism or by some more sordid, just as dangerous emotion, they are inevitably and naturally the enemies of the American people. Just as Lenin and Trotsky were the enemies of the Russian people. Whether consciously or unconsciously, they are playing the game of the autocratic governments and should be repudiated by every straight-thinking American. Now, this is not the time, and in my judgment, there never will come a time when the American people can follow leadership, such leadership as that of which I have just spoken. We need in this country different parties, honestly different, and frankly stating their opinion, but they must be first and foremost American and nothing but American. They must not succumb to influences by any foreign power. They must not succumb to the influences of the agencies of capitalists and of political Bourbonism. And they must not submit to the influences of those powers that say if we give people something, to their greed, and to their energies, that's how we will gain success. We cannot afford to accept leadership from anybody who is not first and foremost, now and always, an American and nothing but an American. Now, I come to this state founded by the men who had the pioneer virtue, and of the women who even more strongly have had the courage and the resolution and the self-sacrifice to make this state what it has become. And I come here to preach the doctrine of straight-out, unqualified Americanism that will not be seduced by foreign aggression or domestic treason. I thank you, and good day.
The State Historical Society of North Dakota is housed in the North Dakota Heritage Center on the Capitol grounds in Bismarck. For more information about these programs or the State Historical Society of North Dakota, please contact the Education and Interpretation Division, North Dakota Heritage Center, Bismarck, North Dakota, 58505, or call 701-224-2799.